What's up, guys? So today I'm going to do something a little different with the video. Not about ATV specific, but we're going to talk about Ryder Support, because Ryder Support season has gone into full swing. Typically starts up around September 1st, and a lot of places end October 31st. Every company's a little different. So, you know, the range slides. Some don't start until October 1st and then go until like mid-December, but figured it's a good time to talk about it. So notice I said Ryder Support and not sponsor season. And a lot of guys, you know, if you're new to the sport, whether it be dirt bike or ATV, I think a lot of guys see all the flashy things and they say, oh, well, if I start racing, I'm going to get free stuff. Well, it's not 1992 anymore, so just get that out of your head. There's really no, when you think the word sponsorship comes with monetary value or lots of free product, and that doesn't really exist anymore unless you're at the pro level, top pro level. Obviously the Supercross guys, they get true sponsorship. You know, some of the quad guys get, if you've been a pro and you have championships under your belt, you'll get full sponsorship or part sponsorship, but it could be money, could be free stuff. But for most of us, for the normal people, we're not getting sponsorship. We're getting Ryder Support, and most companies out there have a Ryder Support program. And what that means is you're going to get a discount off of their products based on a bunch of different things. And the other thing with Ryder Support is, yes, it's for the rider, but you're not going to get Ryder Support without it also being for the company who's offering the support. So, you know, to break that down, we get a discount, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to sales, because that's how they can afford to support us. So when it comes to Ryder Support, it's really about what you can do for that company. And that's kind of how you have to go about it. You have to change your way of thinking. Don't think it's all about you. Yeah, we get a perk. That's awesome. It could be 10%, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, maybe even more. But it's really about the company itself and what they see, how they see value in you and what you could do for them to help them grow their business, help them do more sales. So we discussed Ryder Support season, which is right now, and the earlier you get your resume together and you start submitting, the better. Because what happens is, like last year was my first year doing it. By the time I figured it all out, got my resume together, I was submitting in like late October. The problem there is when you need to get graphics made for the next season, all the graphics companies are slammed. That's their busy season. So keep that in mind. The earlier you can get all your sponsors in, then you could submit it to everything to your graphics company and hopefully beat the rush. It's hard to do because a lot of companies get back to you late. I mean, you could submit your resume right on September 1, and you may not hear back, depending on that company, until mid-December. Well, by then it's too late because all the graphics companies are swamped. So the first thing you need to do for Ryder Support season is you have to come up with a resume. And I know you can't really see this, but it's just a guide. So you got to remember, these companies are going through hundreds and thousands of resumes. So it's not a job resume. You don't want it to be 5-6 pages long. You don't want it to detail every little thing. You want it to be ideally one sheet. I don't really see any need for it to be more than one sheet. You highlight everything, they can scan it, looks good, and then they can move on to the next one. If you submit a 6-page resume, chances are they're going to glance at it, they're going to be like, nah, I can't, I don't have time to read this. So keep it to one page. As far as creating a resume, what I did is I just Googled race resume samples. and I saw some of the formats. There's a lot of different formats. You can either choose to create your own resume, or you can contract it out to someone who makes it for you. And from what I've seen, the average price is probably like $60, probably let's say $50 to $80 is probably a good range for them to create your resume. You have to supply the pictures, all the text, all that stuff. They'll create it for you and lay it out. For me, because I'm a software engineer, I know Photoshop, I know a lot of programs. I honestly was able to do this in a day or two once I got all the text finalized. I used Photoshop just because I know the layering, and I added a background and all that stuff. So what you want to do with your resume is you want to start with your name across the top in larger text. Then I've got my address, my phone number, my email, my social media accounts listed. So that's kind of like, let's say, the header. Then I go into quick stats. So my age, my date of birth, my race number, how many years racing, what machines do I have, what series do I race, and my occupation, and then my hobbies and interests. So that's kind of like your intro. Then I have my background, a few short paragraphs there. Then I go into accomplishments. So this was from 2020. So basically, don't list every race that you were in, because it's too much. You want to, and honestly, even if you came in first place in 15 races, don't list them all. Take the biggest series first and list that. Put the month, the place, the series name, and then what class did you ride in. So I would, like, for accomplishments, I have February, 3rd place, the Dirt Series MX, novice, and then because I have multiple machines, in parentheses I put TRX 250R. And another one I have TRX 450R. So keep that to, like, you don't want to make the font so small that nobody can read it. I would say probably 5 to 6 is probably good, depending on your font size, whatever you're using. Then I went into my 2021 goals for this year. So the first one was race a full work series and advance to B class in 30C and Open C, which I did. Enter as many races as I can for GBC, Dirt Series, and OSSRG. Training, stuff like that. Support, a good one. Represent myself and sponsors on and off the track in a professional manner. Support my fellow racers in any way I can. So that was my 2021 goals. I think I hit all those except racing best in the desert, just because of timing and schedule collisions with works. But, put those into order of priority. Again, 5, 6 bullet points is fine. Then the last one is promotion. And promotion is what am I going to do for the company considering me for Ryder Support? So, little intro paragraph, and then I've got stuff regularly posted on Instagram to increase followers. So I did that, in the last year. I started my Instagram in last August sometime, and within a year I hit 6,000 followers. And social media is huge, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and I'm working all the channels. Some are easier to grow than others, but that's how you get that audience, and that's how you promote the products for that sponsor. Regularly participate in Facebook group discussions and recommend products. I do that a lot. Not even recommend just products, but just helping out in general. Guys that need help with the 250R, 450R. You just want to immerse yourself into the community and show that you're bringing value. Obviously, I create quad parts now, so for my 2022 resume, I have to add stuff about that I expanded my business into quad parts. Talk with other racers and help them enhance their setups by using top-notch products. So again, it's like, when you're at the track and you're showing your quad off and you've done well and you're talking to your buddies, don't be like, oh, use this. It doesn't work that way. Because they all have their setups, they have things they like. But for me, if I find a new product that I really like, I'm going to be like, I tested this, it works well. And then photos. I have my profile pic up here next to all my stats with my number, and then I just put some other photos down through there. So the resume is key. You need the resume. Some companies have an online registration form where you put a lot of your main information, and then you upload your resume. Other companies just want you to email their resume. There's even some companies that are still old school and want snail mail, and they want you to work for it. So don't shy it away. If you want sponsorship by that company, get off your ass, print it out, slap a stamp on an envelope, and get it out there. And then, if it's your first year racing, it's always tough because you don't have a lot of, you may not have, let's say you started mid-year in June, and now it's already Ryder Support season here in September, October. You don't have a lot of stuff. That's okay. Still send it out anyway. The best thing to do initially is come up with a list of companies that you either use their products or would like to use their products, and have that list ready. And then and that's what I do. And then as I submit my resume to those companies, I kind of put a check mark by it, whether it's on my phone or on my computer, it doesn't matter. Just so I remember, okay, I've already submitted there, because you'll get lost. You'll be like, oh. And some companies may not open their sponsorship season until, let's say you're doing all the other ones September 15th. Well, some might not open up until October 1st. So now you've got to keep track of which ones. Put that in your notes as well. I need to submit this. And don't expect to, whether you're a seasoned racer or a first year, don't expect to get accepted by everyone. You got to remember, again, especially if it's a company that deals with both bike and quad parts, they're dealing with a lot of applications. So don't get frustrated, don't get down, don't think you're not doing a good job, it's just the way it is. And then even there's times like last year, there was a tire sponsor that accepted me late in the season, but I had already switched to, another brand tires, and because it was my first year, my discount wasn't the greatest, let's say. And I started doing the math. I'm like, well, for me to switch all my tires on all my quads to this brand and get rid of all these almost new tires that I have, it just wasn't worth it. So, there's times when I turn sponsorship down. And sometimes it's just because they get back to you late, sometimes it's just because I rethink it and I'm like, nah, it doesn't make sense, or I find a new product in the meantime that I really like. So, use that as a guide. But these companies are out here to help us, but they also want help from us. So that's what really, when you're creating your resume, yes, you're going to give all your background and all that stuff, but when you get down to the promotion area, or whatever you want to call it, really think about, what can I do for these guys? Let's say you're not a social media guy. Well, in that case, if you're at the tracks, especially if people know you, I help. I'll talk about your products at the track. If I win a race, people come over to me all the time and they want to know what I'm running or what I recommend for this and that. Just try to be subjective and not be like, well, this is the best, this is the best, this is the best. Because a lot of times guys think whatever is the best because their buddy recommended it to them and they're best friends. So now, and I've said this before in my videos, you won't hear me say this is the best. It would take a hell of a lot for me to say something is the best. Because there's so many products out there, there's so many combinations of motors and all that other stuff. Not everything is always the best for your setup. So just kind of go into that mindset, and you got to be a sportsman. Don't be a jack-off at the track, because if one person sees that and they're on social media and that gets out there, you're done. I get messages daily on all my platforms, people asking questions, and that's what I'm here for. I'm here to help people. So I'm not going to be an a-hole and be like, well, give some sarcastic comment back. It's really about, okay, here's what I think you should run. Here's 2 or 3 different products you can run. They're all good for your setup. They're all going to work for your, let's say your XC or MX or whatever. But all that comes into play with Ryder Support. You know, it's just about being a good person and being that sportsman. And we've all seen those a-holes out on the track that scream at their kids because they did something wrong or they didn't place. You know, that's ridiculous. You know, so again, there's no right or wrong formula with Ryder Support. It's just get it out there, see what kind of feedback you get, and then if it's your first year, don't expect, you know, declines or expect declines. I mean, I didn't get everything I applied to last year. I won't get everything I applied to this year. Unless you're running pro and you really want to go that, you know, you get to that level, then you have a lot more flexibility. But for the normal rider, for A, B, C class riders, you know, take advantage of Ryder Support. It helps. I mean, it's expensive to race. One of the things I'd love to get for next year is a fuel sponsor because fuel, you know, race fuel is expensive. So I've got one or two of those listed that I like their fuel and that I run. We'll see what happens. You know, the bigger ones are tougher to get, but you just gotta get that resume together, hire someone to get their resume together, and then get it out there and see what happens. And then every year that you're in the sport and you do better and you have better accomplishments, or you bump up a class, you know, that's always going to be a positive. So I think that's all I have about that, but I wanted to put it out there because we are in peak Ryder Support season. I think it's a very relevant video right now, and I had no idea what I was doing last year. I had no idea what to expect out of applications, and you know, some people, you know, I got 20% or 30%. My first year racing, I don't think I had anything over 30%. I think that was the max. So, you know, don't expect to come out of the gate getting 50% discounts or larger, but every bit helps, you know, and especially if it's, think about stuff that you wear through quicker, that you may need throughout the season. You know, I know if I have a set of A-arms, I'm not going to, the chances of me needing a new set of A-arms that year is probably pretty slim. If I have a chain slider that I rip through all the time, well, there's something to think about because I may burn through 5 chain sliders next year, you know, especially on my hybrid. It eats them like candy. It's ridiculous because of the angle of the motor. So think about it, come up with that list, get your resume together, send it out, and see what happens. Then the sooner that you get all your sponsors together, get that order into your graphics company because they're gonna get booked up. I think I waited, when I finally got all my sponsors back in, I think I waited about 3 months to get my new graphics. And we were already into, you know, out here in California, our season starts in mid-January. So if I don't get my graphics until mid-March, late March, well, you know, just run what I have. What can I do? So that's it for today. I hope that was helpful. And talk to you guys soon. Take it easy.